Well, hello everybody. I hope you are sitting comfortably because today, we have got what is probably the most exploitable category in American whiskey. It's corn whiskey. Now, you might think that corn whiskey is just kind of a lesser relative of bourbon, and you'd be wrong because the requirements on corn whiskey are, if anything, more stringent. Bourbon only has to be 51% corn. Corn whiskey has to be 80% corn in the mash to qualify as corn whiskey. And. Remember that whole thing about bourbon needing to be in new charred oak barrels? Corn whiskey can't be in new charred oak barrels. In fact, it's the only vessel it can't be in. Literally the entire range of other vessels you want to age anything in, corn whiskey can still go into that. So for example, we have got this fine Laird's here in slot number 3. You'll remember that I had a Laird's bourbon that was basically bourbon finished in Apple Brandy Barrels. And that would technically be declassified as bourbon. It would be a whiskey specialty. This, which is corn whiskey, that was moved over into Apple Brandy casks, doesn't have to declassify. It's still corn whiskey because it never touched charred oak. It's a very fun category, and I wish people were exploiting it more. Anyways, I got 4 corn whiskeys lined up here. Well, really it's 3 because these 2 are from the same distillery. This one is very confusing to me, though. We'll talk about this when we get to it. So I got one with no age whatsoever. I've got one from Colorado. I've got 2 from Kentucky. But we're going to start with this one. This is Bow and Ivy Unaged Corn Whiskey. And this is from a distillery in Washington, D.C. that has since closed, which is kind of sad. I can't really figure out anything about this because their website seems to be down, at least for me. But I did find, at least on one of the store websites, a mash bill of 80% corn, 15 rye, and the rest malted barley. So let's see what we got here on the nose. I mean, yeah, it smells like white dog. I mean, if you have nosed, corn-dominant white dog, you've smelled probably something like this. It's very fruity. There's some, I was going to say candy corn, but it's more like the little pumpkin candies you get on Halloween. There's a lot of that. There's some creamed corn in there too, though. Kind of like creamed corn that's been sitting out for too long. Twizzlers. A certain graininess and kind of in the background there. Like a little bit of hot cream of wheat somewhere in the back. Some like general esteriness, like what am I thinking? I want to say bubblegum something, but it's a particular kind of bubblegum. It's almost like an apricot. If someone made apricot bubblegum, it might smell like this. Or even like apricot bubblegum with lychee bubblegum at the same time. I mean, it's not a terrible nose, but it smells like white dog. On the palate. And it kind of tastes like white dog. Most of these are bottled at 50%, including this one. And the problem with this is it's not really the flavor, actually. It's the form. Because this arrives. It arrives very nicely. It kind of explodes, kapow. And then it's just gone. There's nothing in my mouth past, like, whatever the tooth is right in front of my molar. It's just everything back from there backwards is just, there's nothing there. And aside from a little bit of ethanol burn, which isn't bad, by the way, it's there. There's not much going on in the finish. It just kind of like goes all Patrick Swayze on me. It's just gone. That was in reference to the movie Ghost and not in reference to the passing of the great man. Yeah, what do we got here? Like gumball shells, I guess is my first thought. Yeah, there's some like old school candy going on here. Black Twizzlers, so Twizzlers trying to do licorice, and it's not really licorice, you know that? A little bit of that. Just like corn alcohol to some extent. It's not vodka. It comes off the still at much, much lower proof than that, but it's, which is again a legal requirement of corn whiskey. But you know, there's a little bit of that kind of corny, grainy, ethanol-y thing. That little hint of apricot and lychee, maybe even some nectarine in there, but the big problem is it's just gone. Like the second it hits there, I have like a fraction of a second to kind of get a hold of the notes, and then it's just all disappeared. And all I'm left with is a little bit of kind of ethanoliness. It sounds like I'm, you know, poo-pooing this, and I'm really not. It's not bad at all, but I mean, it's not good. It's a little bad. But it's. I've certainly had many worse things on this channel, so we're going to give this a couple squirts, and we shall come back to it. 50%. Okay. Let's move on. To this. Leopold Brothers. This is another in my Leopold Brothers samples. This is their mountain corn whiskey. Bottled at, actually this is stronger than 100 proof. This is 107.4 proof, which is 53 something. I don't want to do math on camera. This is 80% corn, and the rest is all their own malted barley, which of course is, like, they have their own floor maltings. Like, they're a little crazy over there, Leopold's. 6 years old. I am darn excited to try this. Whoa, okay. So the first thing I am getting is, well, I'm getting a bunch of things kind of at once, but the first things I am picking up on and noticing as distinctive notes are like dry erase markers and pencil erasers. Yeah, absolutely. And behind that, there's some it smells like a whiskey sour or something. It smells like a little bit of lemon, a little bit of honey, lime, maybe, yeah. And then just like, this is going to sound crazy. It reminds me a little bit of Virginia Gentleman, which is a very inexpensive bourbon made by the Barton Distillery. It was my grandfather's favorite. So I have a soft spot for Virginia Gentleman. So it's take Virginia Gentleman, make a whiskey sour out of it, and then stick a whole bunch of dry erase markers and erasers in there. And that's kind of what it smells like. There's some tea elements in there as well, like some, I don't know, like some pu'er tea, but not like nice expensive pu'er. This is like basic restaurant pu'er. Some sage, parsley, it's fun. It's not to the extent that I have expectations as to what a corn whiskey should smell like. This is not meeting those expectations in a good way. It smells very interesting on the palate. Yeah. I swear, these guys. You could be bugged by Leopold Brothers pricing sometimes find their stuff a little bit aggressive, a little aggro, but for me, I mean, at least with their whiskeys, they don't really miss. Like, they're just all consistently very high quality and distinctive. The presence on this is impressive. Really covers the entire mouth. Holds on, good finish. It's tickling the back of my throat, good length, good mouth length. In terms of flavor, I mean, weirdly there's almost like a traditional calm still molasses rum character to this. There's something. We're not getting into Coroni territory with this, but there's a little bit of like a tire fire element happening in the back of this. So imagine you're having like you have odd tastes, and you like to have your Virginia Gentleman mixed in with some pu'er tea. You're drinking that, but in the background, maybe a few miles away, there is a tire fire happening. That's a little bit of what's going on here. Yeah, white pepper. A lot of herbs going on in this. Parsley again, a little bit of basil, sage, dill even. A certain floral character as well. Just kind of like mixed wildflowers. I'm not sure. I need to learn my flowers. I've been saying that for 4 years, but I do. Very complex. It's not an easy drinker. This there's a certain brutality to it, but it's bringing a lot of complexity, and yeah, I like it. I do. Let's move on to. I'm gonna go like 2.5. I might give it the full 3. I'm gonna give it the full 3. All right, Laird's. Laird's straight Kentucky corn whiskey. And again, this is not a whiskey specialty. It is just a corn whiskey because you can do that with the category. This is Heaven Hill sourced. So again, I did try the bourbon version of this, which I very much enjoyed. It was basically just a damn good bottle of Heaven Hill with a little halo of appleiness kind of floating around it. So it was good enough for me to grab one of these and a full bottle of it. This is 5 years old, 50% alcohol by volume. Let's go. So it would be the mellow corn mash bill, which I think it's 80% corn and like 12% rye, and the rest is barley, something like that. Well, I don't know what I was expecting. So first thing to note, this is much more appley than the Laird's bourbon was. It seems to have taken to the apple character of the additional casks. A little bit better, or not better, but just sucked more out of it. Oh, this is yeah. Hell yes. Okay. So it smells like fall. I mean, it's what it smells like. It smells like, like a big old pile of leaves and twigs that you've raked up from your driveway or whatever. You just drizzle some honey on it, and you pour just some fresh apple slices on there, and a whole bunch of cinnamon. And why not throw some apple pie on that pile too, just for fun. That's basically the smell here. So it's very Heaven Hilly. I mean, you're not. I would be. I would trust myself to pick up on that signature in a blind. But the apple pie, apple slices character is very. It's very evident, and marrying very, very well with the basic Heaven Hill character here. Yeah, I like this. At least in the nose I do. Let's see what happens on the palate. Much more of an easy drinker than the Leopold Brothers is. But yeah, in terms of absolute quality, it's especially in terms of development and mouth presence, not quite on the same level. This is big, nice explosion of, like fall leaves and fall twigs, honey, brown sugar, a little bit of cherry on the palate, mixed in with, caramel apples, apple pie. A little bit of lemon peel, a heck of a lot of vanilla. And it's pretty simple, but it's lovely in what it does. So it's got decent mouthfeel. Finish holds on for a good amount of time. Mouth length is a hair bit short. There's not much happening beyond my molars, but there's not a lot to complain about. This is pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. I don't know if I'm going to score different. We'll come back to it, but I'm probably like this a hair bit more than I like the bourbon, and I like the bourbon a lot. But that was more, it just tasted like a Heaven Hill. This tastes like a new cool thing that I'm enjoying. It's just that little bit more appley. All right, and last up, this is a Scotch Malt Whiskey Society bottling. It is CW 1.1, and the name is, I have to look this up again because I'm going to forget. Rocking Chair Whiskey. This was distilled to 2009, 61.6% alcohol. What's confusing about this is when they list the cask. The cask is listed as new charred American oak. And that means this shouldn't be corn whiskey anymore. If any of this has touched new charred oak at any point, technically speaking, it is not corn whiskey anymore. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just mislabeled it, or maybe maybe it was a toasted cask and they just miswrote the cask. Something in this does not add up. I don't know, but I wanted to try it, and this seems like good company, so we're gonna try it. I mean, so we're talking 9-year-old 11-year-old Heaven Hill at high proof, partly aged in Europe, I suppose. A lot of cherry on this. Much more cherry than on the previous couple of, any of these others. Yeah, it's like sweet dessert cherry, but also a little bit of sour cherry happening in there. Vanilla, caramelized sugar, sawdust. The more I swirl this, the more I start to get that kind of like fall leaves, twigs thing that I associate with Heaven Hill. Sorry, the microphone is turning away from me. Stay. I better have audio on this. I'm going to be pissed if the audio is gone. I mean, it smells like, you know, a 10-ish-year-old bourbon. That's kind of what it smells like. And, well, particularly a Heaven Hill bourbon. That's, you know, when it starts to get old enough that it starts to take on those darker characteristics and the cherry. And, I mean, it's nice. There's lots of pepper, lots of vanilla. It's lovely, but it's also... I feel like I've nosed this before, and that's a little bit annoying. But hey, let's try this. Let's taste a little bit. Here we go. Same kind of thing on the palate. I mean, Old Heaven Hill. I mean, if you've had Old Heaven Hill, you've tasted this profile. So again, lots of sour cherry, lots of like dessert cherry, cherry pie, like baked cherry, burned cherry, the leafy twiggy thing, the honey, vanilla, all that's there. Lots of pepper, lots of cinnamon. For the strength and the age, the mouth presence is a little bit disappointing. The tannins, there's intense, like woody tannins on the back end of this. Those hang on for a while, but most of the other flavors kind of fade pretty quickly. The mouth length is not great. It kind of, again, stops at my molars. For, you know, like a cheapy Laird's, that's fine, but something that I think that retail on this was like 160 or something. At that price point, the mouth length better be on point. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with this. It's a good bourbony kind of whiskey, whatever it is, whatever this may be. But I don't know, it doesn't stand out for me. It's a little bit just kind of like, it's an Old Heaven Hill. And that's what it is, and that's okay, but it's not standing out for me. I'm going to give this some water, and we shall come back to it. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if that's good enough. I need a hair bit more. Just a little bit more. Okay. Let's go through these again and give them a score. So at this point, I don't know. All these three are good. Certainly, Leopold is kind of a mean bastard, but it's very, very good. This is a very good, you know, like Heaven Hilly bourbon, but it's a little bit anonymous. This is delicious, and I'm not sure if it has the quality needed to carry it to a high score. So, and this is just, it's nice white dog. It's nice white dog. But let's see what the nice white dog did now if it has a little bit of water. It's a little bit more grainy. That the cream of wheat has moved a little bit closer, and it's brought its friend a bowl of muesli with it. There's a little bit of street elote happening on this. But overall, yeah, it's like old candy, pumpkin candy, a little bubble gummy, old candy kind of stuff. And a little bit kind of ethanol-y, but not bad. On the palate. It's still doing the Patrick Swayze ghost thing. mean, if you're the kind of person who really like enjoys unaged grain spirit, this is kind of okay. It's not my favorite that I've ever had, but it's kind of okay. The problem is with the form. It just kind of falls off a cliff. Like the second after, it starts to transition into the development, it's just kind of gone. And all you're left with is just kind of a bitter, kind of grainy ethanol-y thing. I don't know. There aren't a lot of off notes to this. It seems reasonably well distilled. Again, no new notes to give on this. It's still very bubblegummy, grainy. It's just that kind of apricot-y thing happening. Maybe a little that stone fruity thing. There's just not much to it. Score-wise, certainly not the worst thing I've ever had. I'm going to give this, it's low 70s maybe. Let's go 73 out of 100. And yeah, that's that. Let's move on. Let us move on to the Leopolds. All right, this was quite cerebral and a little bit difficult to wrap your head around the first time around. They're straight rye, which I tasted a few videos ago. Might have actually been the friendliest Leopold Brothers I've had from them so far. Yeah, that markery eraser thing is real. Like that little vibe of like traditional column still rum that's totally in here. And I have no idea where it's coming from. No real new notes in the nose. There's a little bit more sweetness creeping through, a little bit more of like like a fruit honey thing. Even a little dried fruit, a little maybe a little fig creeping in, or like fig butter on the palate. Yeah, let me tell you what this has over everything else on the table, at least so far. We have 2 more to go, but right now, what this is doing, beyond what I've tasted previously, is tertiary flavor characteristics. Those little, not tertiary flavor notes, which is what we, notes from the aging, but like just those little, like third-tier flavors, put it that way. You're getting lots of little complexities happening, like at the end of flavors you thought you'd identified already. It just feels like it's on a little bit of another level. The basic character here is, it's take a nice whiskey sour, put some Puerty in there, put a shot of Caroni in there as well for fun. But then, like, there's these little spice things that happen. There's almost like a little jerk chicken happening in the transition into the finish. There's like this little burst of flowers on the arrival, which then kind of like fades into more of an herbaceous character as again we move through the development. It's not an easy drinker. This is when you have to put yourself in the mood, and you have to kind of like you have to fight with it a little bit to get it to see what it's doing. But if you are willing to put in that time, this absolutely delivers. I'm gonna give this. can I find an 87? I don't think I can get an 87, but I will do an 86 plus. 86 plus for this Leopold Brothers Mountain Corn Whiskey. And let's move on to the Lairds. This is a fun lineup. I will say, it's nice to taste American whiskeys and not be hammered in the face with charred American oak all the time. Oh, I love the freshness on this. So I'm back on the Lairds, and now adding water has really brought it almost like a. Imagine if there were like a lemon apple Italian ice. Imagine if such a thing existed. I would buy the heck out of that, first of all. But that's kind of what this smells like. And behind that, you've got all the folly notes and the honey stuff from Heaven Hill. A little spicy, little white pepper, even some even a little bit of like Tobanjan in there. Just a little bit of like spicy Szechuan flavor happening. I gotta say, for just like what is basically mellow corn finished in Laird's, this has got a little something on the palate. So, number one, it's not on the same level as the Leopold Brothers. It just isn't. Like, it doesn't have those same extra levels of complexity, but this is freaking delicious. God, this is so easy to drink and just like refreshing. I'd love to have a glass of this on the porch, you know, on a nice November evening or something. I mean, it's June right now, so it's not really the weather for it, but yeah, it's that kind of whiskey. Not a whole lot of development from before. It's a little bit more peppery. Maybe the honey element has stepped up a little. Good development, hangs on well. Score-wise, I can't see an 85, but I'll give this an 84. Yeah, this is totally an 84. Oh, wait, that's the wrong bottle, isn't it? I want the Laird's here. 84 out of 100. And, yeah, these little Laird's releases, they flew under everyone's radar. No one cared at all, but if you see one of these, like, grab it. Like, the quality is absolutely there. It's not the most complex thing in the world, but for the price point, it doesn't need to be, and it is delicious. 84 points. Moving on to the Rocking Chair whiskey, was it? Whatever that was? Whatever the last one is. This is the Single Malt Whiskey Society. On the nose, not a ton of development. There's a little bit of creme brulee creeping through now, a little bit more sweetness, perceived sweetness. Touch of smoke, like maybe some of those twigs and leaves caught fire a little bit. It's nice. I mean, it's a nice profile. It's just one I've had a lot over the years. That's okay. On the palate. Still has that mouth presence problem. Like, it's just, there's not a lot of mouth length, and the finish, aside from the tannins, just doesn't hang on for very long. I think in terms of absolute quality, I like this more than Laird's. Maybe. Let me try them side by side. There's a nice s'mores component to this. The cherry pie thing is fun. Let me try the Laird's one more time. No, I mean, the 11-year-old it's just a step up in terms of complexity, in terms of power. Yeah, I'll give it 85 points, but I just don't find it very special, honestly. It's I especially don't think it's worth the price point. I mean, it's 85 points, but I mean, given the choice between this and a decent bottle of, Elijah Craig barrel proof or something, I would probably just take the thing off the shelf, assuming you can still get some of those things off the shelf. And it's just not. This is a point higher, but it's much more expensive, and this would be the one I would take home with me between these two, between the two Heaven Hill sourced offerings. I would go with the Laird's. I really would. Even price no object. And yeah, that's the video. So what do we got? We have got in the lead the Leopold Brothers with 86 plus, but be aware of what you're getting into here. This is special stuff. This is you have a fight in your hands. It will bring it, but it's going to be one you're going to have to really focus on to appreciate what it's got. The SMWS CW1.1. I thought this was fine. 85 points. Laird's Corn Whiskey. This is a delight, especially if you can get this on sale, and I'm sure you can. Grab it. It's a lot of fun. It kind of shows the possibilities for the genre, maybe better than anything else here. 84 points. And the Bow and Ivy Unaged Corn Whiskey. This is another one I probably wouldn't get unless it was aggressively discounted, but 73 points. If White Dog is your thing, this is a perfectly good White Dog. Thanks for watching, and yeah, cheers.